I searched the internet for the top Googled questions about estrogen, and today we are going to answer every single one of them. Anything from weight gain, hair loss, fertility, anxiety, and whether estrogen dominance is a real thing. Today we are going to be talking about estrogen. What is estrogen?
Estrogen is a hormone. So all hormones are made from cholesterol in the body. And then the master hormone made after cholesterol is called pregnenolone. And from there things are made, all the different what are called steroid hormones in the body. So progesterone, testosterone, androsterone, estrogen, and DHEA, and so estrogen is one of the more predominant hormones in the body that both men and women need to keep an eye on.
And what does estrogen do in the body?
Estrogen is a regulator of a lot of different functions. That's where things that are hormones have thousands of different functions in the body. So we try to narrow it down to what are observable functions, but so certainly it helps regulate the cycle, women's cycles, but it affects cell growth and cell division and skin and skin health and different other growth factors in the body, repair systems, mood, even there's receptors for estrogen in the gut, so really all over the body you're going to have some contribution from a hormone.
What are the symptoms of low estrogen?
Again, because estrogen affects so many parts of the body, it would be hard to narrow it down to one thing, but they certainly, for bone density issues, they look at estrogen. For vaginal dryness and sexual dysfunction, they look at estrogen. For mood issues or fatigue, you would look at estrogen. For hot flashes, or menopausal symptoms, you would collectively call it perimenopausal. You might look at estrogen levels. So symptoms could be ranging.
What are the symptoms of high estrogen?
High estrogen symptoms, again, could be ranging as well. So you might have some abnormal skin issues. Certainly like anxiety or irritability would make that list of too much. But even headaches, chronic pain, or sleep issues could be too much estrogen or too little. So you do have to find a balance with all these hormones.
How do I know if my estrogen is low?
Yeah, so I think you would just think about the classic symptoms that estrogen deficiency could contribute to. So that could be a sleep issue or a hot flash or menopausal, perimenopausal states. You typically don't have an estrogen deficiency when you're younger as a woman unless you're really underweight, or you could. So we don't typically think about it till we get towards that perimenopausal time, but it is worth checking prior to that.
How can I increase estrogen naturally?
The most important way to maintain balanced hormones is a healthy lifestyle. So being sure your diet is rich in nutrients. I would call it an animal-based diet, typically rich in available vitamins and minerals. And remember, cholesterol is how we make hormones. So it needs to be a cholesterol-rich diet, and then be sure to exercise, and move our body, and get enough light to maintain the hormonal balance. And the body regulates hormones on its own, so ideally, if our gut function's okay and our liver function is okay, we'll maintain a balance.
What foods increase estrogen?
I'm not sure if there's any foods that increase estrogen that I'm aware of, other than maybe animal-based foods if your estrogen was low, or if you're calorie deficient, you may need to eat more calories overall. A lot of times we talk about foods that lower estrogen.
Can estrogen cause weight gain?
Oh yeah, estrogen could cause weight gain through, again, that cellular energy issue. Too much estrogen can block cellular energy creation, mitochondrial function, and cause the storage of more adipose cells, fat cells, in areas we don't want, the midsection, the hips. So it can cause or contribute to weight gain.
Does estrogen affect hair loss?
Typically, too much estrogen could cause hair loss, although potentially if estrogen was really low, I think it could as well.
Can low estrogen cause anxiety or depression?
Yeah, low estrogen could contribute to anxiety or depression, but so can too high. So a lot of these things are about a balance.
How does estrogen affect sleep?
Estrogen, because there's receptors in the brain and the hypothalamus and the pituitary, and but even higher brain regions, likely pineal, and so those are our brain is organizing and regulating sleep. So because these hormones are active in the brain, they could affect sleep quality, sleep duration.
What are the signs of estrogen dominance?
Most commonly, we see heavy cycles, so heavy periods and clotting and PMS symptoms. But we do see potentially, anxiety and irritability and more mental symptoms as well. A lot of unwanted effects of aging in the body, and even, for men, gaining weight around the chest and the abdomen, and could be sign of too much estrogen. For women, holding weight in areas you don't want it could be too much estrogen.
Well, that was my next question. Can men have high estrogen?
Yeah, men can have high estrogen too, and it's kind of an ironic scenario where women, as they age, tend to redistribute or lower their estrogen, and men tend to gain more estrogen as they age instead of testosterone. So it's kind of an ironic and imbalanced state that we have to try to avoid and treat.
What happens to estrogen during menopause?
During menopause, estrogen is typically classified as being lower. It's lower levels, but it's a little more subtle, and it's a little more complicated than that, because there are different types of estrogen. So you could maintain a lot of your estrone perhaps, but your estradiol could lower, and there's likely even 30 other types of estrogen, so we don't know what all the estrogen is doing and where it's at. But typically it's a little bit lower in menopause.
What is the difference between estrogen and progesterone?
Estrogen and progesterone are kind of on two ends of the teeter-totter. So they're basically what you're trying to keep in a balance. And I recommend and prefer people stay in a progesterone dominant state rather than estrogen. They're both classified as steroid hormones or sex hormones, but their functions and roles in the body are sometimes the opposite. Like one could stimulate bone building and the other bone breakdown. And for healthy bones, you need both. Your bones have to be broken down and rebuilt stronger. So you do need both. So often they're doing a little bit opposite things in our body.
Does estrogen affect fertility?
Yeah, estrogen definitely affects fertility, meaning if you don't have enough estrogen, you may not even have a quality, robust cycle. It could affect ovulation. Too much estrogen, you may not have enough progesterone to maintain that pregnancy. So that's definitely where you need to know your levels at before pregnancy.
Can estrogen cause acne?
Estrogen could definitely cause acne. Being a little bit more hyper-inflammatory if you don't have a good balance. Again, if you have too much so-called bad estrogen and not enough good estrogen, and so it could.
And what causes estrogen levels to drop?
Malnutrition, so an unhealthy or gut absorption issues or an unhealthy diet. Estrogen is high at different times of the month too, and then lower. So certainly age and hormonal changes could cause estrogen to drop.
Can stress lower estrogen?
Stress for a long period of time could lower estrogen, but sometimes stress will enhance or magnify estrogen. Cortisol and estrogen sometimes play together to create a hyper stress state in the body.
And how do you test estrogen levels?
You can test blood, saliva, or urine. Typically, I use blood or urine.
Does estrogen affect muscle growth?
I don't think of estrogen for as much for muscle growth as I do as I do testosterone and DHEA, but it could.
Can breastfeeding lower estrogen?
Breastfeeding more helps maintain progesterone being higher than estrogen, so it doesn't impact estrogen as much as keeps progesterone higher.
What is the best supplement for low estrogen?
Well, there's a lot of herbs through the years the herbalists have found that have a estrogen promoting effect. Borage, and even certain kind of flax oils and seeds have a slight estrogenic effect. So you could look at herbs as a way to kind of give yourself a little bit of a boost. There's a category called phytoestrogens, and herbs in those categories can be helpful.
Does estrogen affect your thyroid?
Yeah, estrogen could negatively impact your thyroid, I would say. So it's more important to have optimal progesterone for a balanced thyroid.
How do endocrine disruptors affect estrogen?
And endocrine disruptors contribute to your total body estrogen. So they're going to enhance estrogen's effects and contribute to the liver's burden of processing estrogen and toxins, and also the guts. So it's kind of additive to your body's estrogen.
Why do you think it takes so long for women to start working on estrogen?
Well, been a lot of misconceptions through the years on estrogen, and there's still different opinions out there on what estrogen does. Is it good or bad? And there's synthetic hormones that are out there versus bioidentical. There's herbals, so there's some misunderstanding of what all estrogen is doing, and we're all a little bit different. So how one hormone affects a woman is different than how it affects the next woman, and so there's enough differences that there's confusion.
What is your favorite thing to prescribe or favorite form to prescribe when working with estrogen?
I don't necessarily have a favorite, because what's most important is that certainly the delivery of the hormone matters, whether that's injectable, oral, or cream, or patch. But what's most important is just monitoring the levels and the metabolites. So following the breakdown of that and seeing how your body's handling it is what's most important. So by far the most dangerous would be taking synthetic by mouth, but there's not necessarily a perfect one.
You're on a GLP-1, will that affect your estrogen?
A lot of times the GLP-1 can lower your overall hormones. Now, some women claim that the GLP helped them balance their hormones. So again, there's lots of different things going on at once. But if you get low in calories and nutrition, you're not going to have enough to make your hormones over the long term.
At what age should we, as women, start thinking and testing our estrogen and hormone health?
In general, it'd be great even to check your hormone levels in your potentially your teens, but definitely 20s. You want to kind of get a feel for what your hormones are doing for each decade of life. So if things go a little haywire, you have a track record for where's your estrogen, where's your testosterone through the years. Most people don't do that, but it's best if we would.
If people use like a traditional, like Western medicine approach and have health insurance, is that something that they can get easily ordered for them, or do they have to search for someone like yourself? Or
they may have to take some initiative there. Insurance companies may not want to pay for hormone testing. They may not measure all the types of estrogen, estriol, estrone, estradiol. So it may be harder to get than you'd think, unfortunately.
if you have any more questions about estrogen, or you are not sure which direction to go in your health journey, please reach out. We would love to answer any questions that you have. But it sounds like estrogen is just as important as progesterone and testosterone. So in the next video, we will be talking about testosterone. Make sure to like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we will see you next time.